There are many times throughout the course of a year that we hear about the Red Cross or other organizations going to third world countries and donating supplies of food. They bring water and comfort to those who have none. They bring food to those who can't afford it or to those who cannot find their own. Did you know that this problem is not isolated to just third world countries? This problem still exists in our own country today. It is amazing to me that we live in a time when we have the technology to go to other planets, yet we still have children going home at night and wondering when their next meal will be. According to feedamerica.org, 13% of households were found food insecure in 2015. While you might be thinking 13% is not all that much, that is 15.8 million households. According to the census in 2010, there are approximately 2.58 people per household. That means that approximately 40,764,000 Americans were unsure when they would eat again. And since the population is increasing, that number is increasing as well. This problem is not being addressed and is being shoved aside out of the way for ridiculous news stories about subjects that do not really matter. I myself am guilty of following the media and getting caught up in its nonsense. I think we should be focusing less on what celebrities such as Colin Kaepernick think about politics and more about how we can solve this unresolved issue. Donating unused food from supermarkets and restaurants to nonprofit charities is one way to help feed the millions of Americans that go hungry every night. We are going to discuss how much food is wasted, the measures that should be put in place for food establishments, and how this benefits all Americans. Let's begin by discussing how much food gets wasted regularly. The amount of food being thrown away by various food establishments is astronomical. These food places and the food you throw away could be used to help those less fortunate. According to harvestpublicmedia.org, grocery stores and restaurants serve up more than 400 million pounds of food per year, but nearly a third of it never gets eaten. 10% of wasted food is thrown away at the retail level, which is at supermarkets and restaurants, and 20% of it is wasted at the consumer level, which is in our own homes. While these percents do not appear to be very much, they amount to $160 billion. Unfortunately, this problem is not exclusive to America. While it is not surprising that developed countries waste more food than undeveloped, you would be surprised how much food gets wasted in countries all over the world. This is a bar graph that shows how much food is wasted in different countries. The highlighted column shows the United States and Canada. As you can see, it is higher than other countries. According to thedailymeal.com, Australia wastes 4.5 metric tons of food per year. Denmark wastes 540,000 tons of food per year, and Italy wastes 20 million metric tons of food per year. While these numbers are colossal, the U.S. is still one of the biggest offenders when it comes to disposing of food. The reasons for which we throw away food are somewhat troublesome. When you think of the reasons why establishments would throw out food, images of rotten vegetables might come to mind. While this might be the case in some instances, it is not in most. According to harvestpublicmedia.org, a great deal of food gets tossed out simply because it does not look good. Many grocery store owners confess that presentation is paramount, and they have to throw out perfectly fine fruits and vegetables. One grocery store owner in Independence, Missouri said, "That means culling the aisles for fruit deemed too ripe and making sure the stands are stocked to the brim with perfect bounty year-round." Another reason food gets thrown away is because of expiration dates on packages and containers. Most people think that this date means the product cannot be consumed after that specific date. This is inaccurate. According to Time magazine, food dates emerged to promote people to buy food in stores instead of growing it themselves. The date solely indicates freshness and are used by manufacturers to convey when the product is at its peak. This date does not indicate when the food becomes inedible, and especially in the case of unrefrigerated foods. It may taste no different than the date before listed on the product. The words use by and sell by are used incorrectly and are contributing to the mass quantity of food being thrown away for no reason. The dates on these foods are for the manufacturer to know when the food has reached its freshness peak. Many experts think that this date should be invisible to the consumer. Now that we understand how much food is being wasted, how do we fix it? More measures should be put in place to prevent food loss. It is important to understand that food gets wasted at many levels of the production process, and that changes at each step can help. Food does not magically appear on the shelves in stores. It must be grown, harvested, packaged, delivered to the store, and finally bought by the consumer. This is a lot of different steps, and a great deal of places where food can get wasted. A good place to start is with the growing and harvesting of crops. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations Summary Report, undeveloped countries waste more food in the harvesting of crops than in the processing and distributing of them, which is opposite in the case of developed countries. This is due to the use of outdated equipment and farming methods. Everyone has heard the expression, give a man a fish he eats for a day, teach him to fish he eats for a lifetime. Educating third world country farmers on proper ways to farm could help alleviate some of the waste, and therefore lessen the amount of food the U.S. sends to foreign countries. There are other ways to prevent this that begin with everyday consumer. Shopping smartly is a simple way to begin. Not buying food items you aren't sure you're going to use and making a list of exactly what you need can help eliminate waste. More food is wasted on the consumer end in the U.S. than on the production end, so by eliminating waste at home, you can help this problem. While there are measures that we can take at home to prevent food loss, actual federal laws must be put in place to seriously address the issue. We already have some measures in place to help prevent the problem, but stricter measures must be put in place to seriously address it. The U.S. Federal Donation Act of 2008 is in place, but it only encourages that unused food be given to donation agencies. The USDA also does something called gleaning, which is the act of collecting excess food from farms, gardens, farmers markets, or any other source in order to provide it to those in need. It is an important source of fresh produce for food insecure families. According to TheGuardian.com, France recently passed a law requiring and banning supermarkets from throwing away or destroying unsold food. They are forcing them instead to donate it to charities and food banks. While France is the first country to do this, a UK food waste bill was recently introduced that had similar provisions. Laws like this should become more common, and proposing one in the United States might help to alleviate some of the issues. The solutions are out there, but would they actually help? These measures would benefit both less fortunate Americans who can't afford food and everyone else in the United States. Relieving the issue of hunger is not just helpful to those who eat the food collected. It keeps the cost down for all Americans. Nearly $75 billion is spent on the Supplement Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, or formerly known as food stamps. With the amount of food that will be given to those less fortunate from these grocery stores and restaurants, people might be able to eat and therefore use less food stamps, if any at all. This could potentially cut a large amount of spending and could perhaps cut tax by some. This is not the only way we could possibly cut large amounts of spending. Another major expense in the U.S. is the import of food from other countries. While we do export a great deal of product, our import costs are quite high. According to the FoodSafetyNews.com, the U.S. annually imports $9.566 billion in food each year. By saving more food, it could possibly cut this number and make more of a profit for the U.S. Donating food that has become inedible also has good use. Many companies and food operations are turning to composting as a way to reuse unpalatable food. In some cases, these businesses even get a tax write-off for doing so. Another benefit of this program would be the number of jobs it would create. There would be a need for people to transport, maintain, and oversee the management of all this food. There would also be a need for people to serve the millions of Americans that this would benefit. Let's go back and review what we've talked about today. Donating unused food from supermarkets and restaurants is one way to help the problem of hunger in America. After realizing how big of a problem this is, we can take the steps to reduce the number of people going hungry every day. Helping farmers to use more modern farming techniques and equipment is a good place to start. Implementing measures to prevent edible food from being thrown away is also a good way to solve this issue. The issue of hunger has been a problem since the beginning of the human race. Instead of focusing on irrelevant opinions of public figures, we should focus on helping those in need around us. Helping those less fortunate benefits everyone involved and would help solve one of the longest ongoing problems in our great country today.